Hello there. Welcome into a Wednesday edition of the show, albeit a short one. Air Force men's basketball coming up at the bottom of the hour. I still very much thank you for listening to the show, whether you're doing it on air, online, or through the Extra Sports 1300 app, which is sponsored by Diversus Health, mental health, and well-being for all. Alan McCann, the new head coach of the Colorado Springs Switchbacks, will be my guest in less than 20 minutes. Get his thoughts on taking over the job and what fans can expect moving forward from our local soccer club. But I do want to begin with a Broncos-related item, and I got the last couple of days because basketball stuff has been a little bit screwy, but I did see a text come in yesterday that was something that was on my mind, so I'd like to bring it up. One of the more significant developments of the Broncos' win against Kansas City, and the question becomes, is it something that's going to be the case moving forward, or was it just a one-off? It was the passing of Bo Nix, the deep passing of Bo Nix. 4 of 7 on passes that were 20 yards or more. The other games this year that he has had that many deep completions, Cincinnati, Dallas, and New York, the Giants, not the Jets. Now, there's been a misnomer out there that Sean Payton doesn't let Bo Nix throw the ball downfield. That could not be further from the truth. Bo Nix is on a list with the likes of Herbert, Mahomes, Stafford, and Josh Allen in terms of the number of deep pass attempts he's had this year. So this stuff about Sean Payton doesn't let Bo Nix throw the ball downfield, that's just not true. The problem is, as the game wears on, they go away from it. Why? Because Bo Nix hasn't been successful in that endeavor. So he's not supposed to be hitting those long passes based on what he has been for most of the season, and he's especially not supposed to be hitting them against the Kansas City Chiefs. And the more impressive aspect of it, 3 of the 4 completions that he had of 20 yards or more, including that 3rd and 15 throw to Cortland Sutton, which to me sealed the game. I knew that the Broncos were going to win when Bo Nix hit Cortland Sutton for 20 yards on 3rd and 15 on that final drive. The more impressive aspect of it, 3 of those 4 completions were on obvious passing downs. Not only is it quite the revelation for Bo Nix to be that effective throwing the ball downfield, for him to be that effective against that defense in that game and doing it on downs where Kansas City knows the Broncos have to throw it downfield. That makes it even more impressive what we saw on Sunday. And they needed every one of them. They needed every one of them because the worst part of the Broncos' performance on Sunday is the fact that without J.K. Dobbins, they couldn't run the football. R.J. Harvey, 11 carries for 30 yards. Jaleel McLaughlin, 6 for 19. Now, maybe it's intentional, maybe it's circumstance, maybe it's personnel. We'll have to wait at least a couple of weeks for this emergence of R.J. Harvey that I think many people were planning for on Sunday. Didn't happen. Wasn't effective. And I think with Sean Payton, it's always a combination of the two. Part of it is he has to remind himself to run the ball. So he does tend to drift away from the run game as the game goes on, and then he locks back in on it in the fourth quarter because, as we have discussed ad nauseum week after week after week, in the fourth quarter, it's just do whatever you can to win the game. But I also think it's because they didn't have J.K. Dobbins. And maybe R.J. Harvey, despite all the bluster, despite all the praise, maybe wasn't quite ready to take that step and be that number one running back that J.K. Dobbins was, at least for now, at least in that game. And Bo Nix talked about how good it was that they got those chunk plays, given that they normally have to matriculate the ball down the field, especially with the run game.
At times, I felt like today we just had timely third down execution and we had timely plays that were explosive. And against a team like that, finding explosive plays is one of the best ways to get some confidence, get some juice, and have this belief that, you can do it.
So how was such a thing possible? One part, credit where credit's due, great play design. I mentioned the 3rd and 15 pass to Cortland Sutton. That was a great play design. And probably all of them were good play designs, but that one especially, Cortland Sutton was wide open. Okay, so that was not one that you say, wow, Bo Nix fit into a tight window there. No, Cortland Sutton didn't have a defender within 5 yards of him. So you have to give credit to Sean Payton for the design of some of these pass plays as part of the reason why they worked. But the bigger part of it, the line was exceptional on Sunday. They gave Bo Nix a clean pocket in 3/4 of his dropbacks. Clean pocket, 3/4 of his dropbacks. And we have seen with even the slightest bit of pressure, Bo Nix will start to get happy feet. He even sees a player in another jersey cross the line of scrimmage. He gets happy feet. So the fact that the Denver Broncos offensive line was able to give him a clean pocket for 3 out of every 4 plays is a huge reason why Bo Nix was able to complete those passes, right? Because Bo Nix with no pressure, Bo Nix can set himself, deliver, which leads to accuracy. This is also not a new phenomenon when it comes to Bo Nix. What is one of his big issues? He doesn't set his feet. Well, it's easier to do that when you don't feel like you're going to get hit, that you don't have to hurry. And the Broncos offensive line afforded him that opportunity time and time again on Sunday. And that, look, we keep forgetting because we get caught up in skill position players in the defense. But what was the first thing Sean Payton did when he got to Denver? Build that scaffolding, lay that foundation of the offensive line. It was the first thing he did because he knew how important it was. And this offensive line has been, since Sean Payton arrived, one of the best year in and year out. And they were at their best, perhaps, in the biggest game of the year. But even therein lies what I think is a shocking development when it comes to Bo Nix throwing the football. Because much of the reason why the Broncos offensive line protected so well is that Kansas City didn't bring that much pressure. It was one of their lowest blitz rates all season. So it's no wonder that the offense, you take a really good offensive line with very little pressure, and Bo Nix is quite comfortable. But why didn't Kansas City bring the blitz? The game plan clearly was to try and confuse Bo Nix with some of the coverages and make him throw it into tight windows, make him throw it through traffic, have more defenders back in order to do those things. That was the game plan. And you have to say that's not the wrong game plan. Because again, Bo Nix can't throw the deep ball. Bo Nix can't fit into tight windows. You can confuse Bo Nix. I don't fault Kansas City for their game plan. It was the right one. It just backfired because we saw a deep passing performance from Bo Nix that we had not seen all season. Or at least only seen in small doses against really bad defenses. And that's been the game plan from a lot of teams. Right? Make him throw it into tight windows, confuse him, and also with the respect that teams have for his escapability and running ability. You send more guys up the field, Bo Nix can run around them. So all of this makes sense, but it didn't work for Kansas City. So ultimately, the question moving forward is this. Is this a quarterback that's figuring out how to complete deep balls and is doing it more and more after he's attempted the fifth most deep passes in the league? That could be one. But I think it's something to watch. I can't sit here and say, oh, yeah, Bo Nix has just figured it out and just expect this to be him the rest of the way, because two of the teams, really three, you like the pass rush of the Giants, you don't like the back end of their defense. Really, you look at the other three occasions when Bo Nix completed 4 or more deep passes, Bengals, Dallas, Giants. Those overall aren't good defenses. Certainly aren't good back ends of the defense. So right now, Kansas City, that performance is an outlier. Doing it against that secondary and that defense and that defensive coordinator. So I can't take an outlier and just say, this is now him. But if you zoom out a little bit, Bo Nix is hitting more deep passes over the past 4 games than he has all the games before that. And I talked about going into the Kansas City game that Bo Nix was regressing. There was regression. His completion percentage, his yardage, his quarterback rating were all going down week after week after week leading into the Kansas City game. That was a trend that Bo Nix, to his credit, put a stop to. So, but this is also a trend that is going on. Now, again, take into account the teams that he's been going against, that he's been able to do this. But it is becoming a trend. Not that performance, not the one he had on Sunday. But he's starting to complete more deep passes as we go along this season. So it's a trend to monitor, and it's also something to say, can he be that good again, or was it just what we've seen in fourth quarter Bo Nix? Because of how big that game was, you got it for the entirety of the game, or you got it multiple times throughout the game, not just in the fourth quarter. Could it just be fourth quarter Knicks emerging for 4 quarters? That is one of the storylines to watch as we move through the rest of this season. Now, the identity of this team is still the identity of this team. If they want to get to where they want to go, they're going to have to run the football. I am not banking, even if Bo Nix is truly improving in this regard, I am not banking on that being the formula to get the Denver Broncos to a Super Bowl. I still think it's running the football. I still think the most important thing they can do is get R.J. Harvey going down the stretch of this season without J.K. Dobbins, because that's who they are. But there's a place for what we're seeing with Bo Nix in the greater scheme here. You run the football effectively. What do defenses do? They creep up. That's when having a quarterback who can hit deep passes comes in handy. So both things can happen. But this idea that now Bo Nix is going to become the best downfield thrower and Sean Payton should just abandon everything that he's built over 11 weeks and just let Bo Nix throw the ball down the field all the time, I don't think that's responsible. This team has an identity. They need to get back to it now that they, have a bye week, have a little bit lighter schedule the next couple of weeks. They need to run the football. But if Bo Nix can continue to hit more deep passes than he has at any point this season, that's another piece of the puzzle in place that makes the Denver Broncos that much more difficult to beat. Coming up next, the head coach of the Colorado Springs Switchbacks, Alan McCann. Colorado Springs Switchbacks FC did not have to look far to find their next head coach. Joining me now is the seventh man to hold that position in the club's history. He is Alan McCann. Alan, first of all, congratulations. How many text messages or phone calls are you behind as people are congratulating you?
Yeah, that number is just rising. Thanks very much for that. But that number is just rising, and I don't think I'll catch up anytime soon.
Well, it's you got to catch up, Alan. You got to do it. You got to put in the work. But it does speak to how many people are excited for you to get this opportunity. I'm curious, kind of the range of emotions for you the last few weeks, because obviously you guys go down to Tulsa and fall there, have your season come to an end. Then the decision from the club to let Stephen Hogan and James Chambers go, two guys that you came to Colorado Springs with. And now you have the highest of highs being named the head coach. Has it been kind of a whirlwind over the last few weeks for you?
Yeah, it's the exact way. It's a roller coaster. The Tulsa game, you're a save here or a save there away from going through, and look where Tulsa have gotten to so far, all the way to the final. So that's still kind of stuck in the stomach. And then that Tuesday morning when we were in there with the players, that was a bit of a grenade that went off. And now kind of trying to put all the pieces together in the meantime, and going through the process then with the club after saying they'd like to interview me to go through, and then them telling it's something that they're going to go forward with. So it's it's an absolute roller coaster, and you don't have your hands on the wheel at all throughout that roller coaster. But now we have to start putting pieces together for 26.
You've been a head coach before. Anybody that I speak to speaks highly of you. Given your connection with James Chambers and Stephen Hogan, was there any thought from you that, maybe I don't want to take over for them? Maybe a change of scenery would be best for me.
I think throughout the 2 years, both were always, and even when Brennan was here, Brennan had always said to the three of us, he had three head coaches sat on his bench. I think throughout the whole time, every single one of them was encouraging and exploring options if there was a chance to move on. So there's been a couple of looks here or there throughout all those years as an assistant, but nothing made sense at the time to move on because of the learning you could get here from every single one of those coaches, and every single one of those coaches gave you kind of different lessons throughout that. So yeah, it's a bittersweet thing, I don't think anything comes around perfectly in how you want it. And this, of course, is a huge opportunity, but still in how it's come about. And that's where that bittersweet feeling is coming from. So, yeah, you're stuck in, you've one foot in one camp and one foot in the other. But you just have to take the opportunity with both hands.
So what is it about this job in particular, setting aside, the feelings that you have towards your predecessor and guys that you had coached with for a number of years? What is it about this city and this club that to you ultimately made the decision that, if I'm going to be a head coach, I'm going to make that leap, it's going to be here in Colorado Springs?
Well, straight away, the city in itself now is home for myself, my wife, and my son was born here. So that's a big thing. It's always going to be home for him. He's 6 months now in a few days. So we're going to always have an attachment to this city straight away. And I think that's very, very hard to come by. Not every city that you land in this profession is something that tugs on your heartstrings and you kind of are able to build roots and embed into. That's first and foremost. Secondly, I think the biggest piece for me in going through the interview process is exactly what when Brad put me through with the ownership group was a want moving forward and the principles that they're going to stand for and how they want it done. It's very much similar to what growing up in Ireland in inner city Dublin through there. Growing up in that, those values just match. There's no conversations we ever have to have about making someone align up to that. It's almost a natural partnership there, because you understand each other from a core value type of thing, the deep rooted type of thing. And I'll tell you, the big piece too, there's a fantastic core of players here that are returned. The players have been very, very vocal in the last 2 weeks in particular as to their opinions on everything, and where they believe they can go as a group with more pieces added to it. Mm. That's also a factor, because you've got everybody driven together with one type of idea in the same building. So it's a kind of all-encompassing thing.
Alan McCann, the newest head coach of Colorado Springs Switchbacks FC, my guest. You mentioned how your values and the club's values are aligned. What are a couple of those? What can fans, when they go to Widener Field coming up this spring and watching Alan McCann coach team, what does that look like to them? What are those core values that you hinted at there?
Well, internally, it's first and foremost, it's very, very clear in expectations. Let's say from me to a player. Let's say that's from players being able to talk directly to the president, to Brad. There's one message coming throughout, and everybody's actually buying into that. And those that aren't bought in or can't buy in, kind of, they're just not going to fit in, because there's a very, very clear identity, and holding each other internally accountable to that is going to be huge, because then that helps us on the field. And I think on the field, which every single previous coach since my time here has explained, the fans have to resonate with what they see on the field. They have to be able to relate to, let's say, I think, which is why they love Juan Tejada. Mm-hmm. Juan Tejada will never, ever give up on a soccer field. He'll give you moments of magic. And honestly, that kind of sums this city up. That's what this city is. A very, very, the people that I've met and been lucky enough to meet, they're very, very hard working. They're down to earth. They want to be challenged, and they want to be tested, and they've all got a sprinkle of magic too. So Juan and Stevie and Mahoney and these types of characters are the never say die type of characters. I believe that's at a minimum what the fans should be able to see. And then the next piece is the players should be inspiring the next generations of kids. What I grew up looking at players, the reason I continued into the profession was because I had local heroes growing up. So that should be the next piece that especially the children should be able to be wanting to play this sport over and over again, and you grow an actual organic love for it.
Because people around here know you, and the continuity that still exists with a lot of the systems and the roster, as you discussed, a core group of players that will be back. I don't have to tell you this, Alan. Expectations are going to go right back up this year, right? If they were bringing in somebody from a far off place to completely rebuild this thing, there would be, okay, let's give it some time. The expectations are going to go right back up this upcoming season. Is that where your expectations are, competing for another USL championship next year?
Yes, that's exactly what was explained to the players yesterday. I met with the players yesterday to tell them that I had finalised my deal. I also told them a couple of the new signings that were made along, like, to coincide with. And that is exactly what we spoke. And my exact words were, we are not in a position where we have to be going through a rebuild year. We are going to be in a position where top 4 is the minimum target for next year. And top 4 obviously means home playoff. So if you can grab top 4 at the minimum, and now you can start to compete for top of the West. And then again, you're top of the West, well, the championship runs through Colorado Springs again, and then you're picking up the Western Conference trophy and the main trophy up as well. So I think that was another part of my interview and meeting with the ownership, was that's where the expectations should be every year. Now, every club knows it's very, very hard to do it back to back. It's very, very hard to do it. Let's say we're here for 100 years. It's very, very hard to do for those 100 years. Mm-hmm. But we do need to be there or thereabouts, knocking on the door with a correct process, and that the fans can see every single year. We are going to be there or thereabouts, and in that conversation consistently. Well,
I look forward to many more conversations with you, Alan. Congratulations on this post, and I already very much looking forward to next season. Thanks for joining me.
Thanks very much, Ryan. Appreciate it.
Yep, that is Alan McCann, the new head coach of Colorado Springs Switchbacks FC. That will be it for the show. We'll post that interview online. Coming up next, Air Force basketball here on Extra Sports 1300.